Hello YouTube, this is Alexander again, and today it's gonna be a troubleshooting video talking here about my new power amplifier, the Proton D1200 stereo power amplifier. It has a very nice feature, which is the DPD. It's kind of improvement about the dynamic, and you have a lot of headroom here, about 0, 3 and 6 dB of power when you need it. This is the conception of this amplifier, which make it a legendary actually. So I was very happy to have this amplifier since a few days. It has a very nice specs, like a very high signal ratio, noise ratio signal, about 120 dB, which is phenomenal for an amplifier of this power. And it has a very nice musicality, and I love it when I make it. I make a little short video about that to show it. But after a while, when I got familiar with it, I noticed a little noise coming from the speaker, and this noise was like a bee on the speakers. On each channel you will have this a little bee. It was not very significant, but between two songs, when there is a silence, you will be able to hear this noise. And as usual, if you are a sound designer or music lover, you can permit this kind of imperfection. And after a while, it disturbed me. Seriously, I didn't really like this kind of trouble on this amplifier. I have made some research about this kind of trouble on internet. I didn't find anything significant about it, and the only thing I found was the hum coming from a bad filtering on the bridge rectifying area, which was absolutely not my case, because the hum coming from the speaker of this amplifier was not very loud, but in a very quiet room you will be able to hear it, this, and it's a sign of something is going wrong on this amplifier. So anyway, the sound was absolutely very good. The medium, the treble was absolutely amazing, and I decided to make a troubleshooting on this very quite powerful amplifier, because I didn't use sometimes a power amplifier like this. Sometimes my maximal value about power amplifier was about something about 40 watts. I never use except in car audio amplifier, I didn't exceed 50 or 40 watts RMS, and this one is about 100 watt RMS with dynamic power on demand, which can provide to you a very high power in surge, with surge power. So I make some investigation, and you can see here some component on it, and it has a big area which is divided by 2, at least in appearance, because this amplifier is sold like a dual mono, but actually it's not a real dual mono. But you can see the nice made on this board, which is separate in half, and you will have a half for the right output and another half for the left input, which can make the troubleshooting more easier. So firstly, after thinking a lot, I noticed a very important thing, is that when I use a variable power supply here on my bench, this power supply is able to to give a different voltage, about 180 and 220 and 250 volts. And the noise, when I was switching between each different voltage, I noticed that the noise disappeared at this low value. So I found it very strange, because I didn't know at this time if the trouble was coming from the amplifier itself or about the preamp section, because this amplifier has a buffer which is used like a preamp section, because I think the input need to be amplified certainly in voltage and current to drive the Darlington transistor, which are the first level of this amplifier. And as you can see something here, you are here the input. The input are here, and they are attacked by, if I can, okay, you will have here the preamp section, which is a buffer, because the amplification logically is about 1, if I'm not wrong. And you will have here the Darlington. No, this is not a Darlington. This is an encapsulated same transistor, because they need to work together, because they need the heat, or the same heat for each work they made. Apparently this buffer is not an amplifier, because the ratio is about 1, because if it was an amplifier you will have a resistor in this loop. But okay, maybe I mislead something. So okay, so the preamp section is here and the amplifier is here. My purpose was to try to understand if the hum was coming from a vibration, multi-vibration, and a self-oscillating circuit coming from this amp area, or coming from this buffer. So I made some research here, and you can see here on this part here of the amplifier, this is the regulating process, and this on each side you have the regulating process for each channel. So I found this channel was repaired, and you can see here, the solder are not genuine apparently, and apparently the owner of this amplifier has makes some repair on it. And what we can see, if it's that he changed this transistor here, which is not genuine apparently, and some capacitor, and also the Zener diodes. Okay, and this Zener diode are about 22 volts. So firstly, and to be honest, to discover a trouble coming from this area was the thing, it's that this heatsink was not attached mechanically to this transistor, who is not exactly the same than the schematic. And when I took my air compressor, I take this air compressor like a cold pulverization, and I put some fresh air on some components, and I noticed that the hum coming from the speakers was changing according if I make this part a little cold. And it was very significant when I put fresh air on those diodes. And when you make fresh air on this diode, they reduce their voltage on their leads, and decrease the voltage on this part here. This part here is an integrated circuit. This integrated circuit is the preamp section of this preamp, or this amplifier, sorry, and they need to go through this. The signal needs to go through this preamp before to attack the first step, the first level of this amplifier. And what happened here is when the diode here are cooled, they reduce the voltage on this preamp, and the noise becomes to disappear a little bit. So what I did is I disconnected the part was changed by the owner, and I put another Zener diode with 17 voltage, okay, and the noise coming from the speaker completely disappear. So okay, I thought it was a good solution to decrease the voltage of the supply of this preamp, but actually it worked very nice without any coming from the speakers, and the signal noise ratio was absolutely beautiful. But when you use your 17 Zener diode on this regulation area, you lose an important power, and you cannot reach this 6 dB of headroom, power headroom. So okay, so my thought was about what can happen with this preamp, which will not work with classical area, because on the schematic of this preamp, it needs 22 volt negative and 22 volt positive for working properly. So with the 17 volt Zener diode on the regulation part, you feed this amplifier, this preamp, with minus 15 and positive 15, which gives you a very clean signal output and no noise anymore. But this is not a way to reach the maximum power of this amp, and I'm not satisfied with this. I prefer to find a very good solution. So my first solution was to build a little part like this for switching between 22 volt Zener diode and 17 volt Zener diode, according to those relay who was able to work with output speakers. And if the signal is low, you will have your amplifier connected with the lower 17 Zener diode, and if your level was very high, you switch with the 22 volt Zener diode. But this is not a real repair. Okay, it was intended to work with this relay also, because there are each relay for each speakers. But I'm not satisfied with this solution, because I think there is a better solution. And I tried to understand why this amplifier was concerned by this trouble. And the fact is, and this is a pure thought for the moment, if there is maybe this transistor was changed by the owner, and it's very simple to see, because the leg was too short and the transistor was not fixed on his heatsink. I had to fix it myself and make the leg of the transistor more longer with the soldering iron. So what I guess is, when this part failed, it sent a high voltage according only one way on the preamp, and maybe this high voltage, or maybe because the 8 voltage rail was shorted, and I absolutely don't know if this transistor was shorted or was completely open when it failed. So what I guess here is when this part failed, maybe it create a damage on this preamp, and because of that it create a noise at the correct supplied. So what I think about that is, firstly, to use my amplifier correctly, and I can use this little stuff to make it very silent between two songs without any hum coming from the speakers. And also what I can do is to purchase a new it's a M5219. This is a very common preamp used on many sound devices, and it has a very good signal noise ratio for preamp, for ERR correction and other stuff. And it costs quite expensive. Actually, this is not a few cents. This part costs several dollars actually, because it's very old, and if you want to take care about whole equipment, sometimes you have to pay the price to keep it alive. So first, what I'm going to do, I think, is to use correctly those diode here. After trying a lot of diode, I have here a bunch of different Xanode diode, and about different voltage. And when you go over 18 or 19, you will have the coming from your speaker. So you have to work with 17 volts to have your output very clean. So what I guess is because the transistor which was here and was changed by the last owner was defect, and maybe it caused some damage on the preamp and prevented to work it correctly. So okay, if you have some trouble like this, this video I think can help you to troubleshooting about the noise coming from your speaker. On y va. T'es en train de faire une vidéo? Ouais, c'est bon, on y va, t'inquiète. Okay, so okay, it was all for today. If you have noise coming from your speaker, maybe you have the same trouble with mine. I'm not sure, but I know if this part was failed in short circuits or failed open, you can have maybe a full voltage or lower voltage, and maybe it's not those kind of equipment maybe are fragile, doesn't like when they are working with non-symmetrical voltage or over voltage, and you will have your trouble like I have. So okay, I will purchase this part, and I will let my amplifier like this for the moment with this switcher, automatic switcher. This is an automatic switcher. According to the power, you will need an output, and I will purchase this part and see if changing this part here was absolutely enough. Okay, it was Alexander again for troubleshooting today, and I hope you like this video about this beautiful amplifier, and see you soon.